Good evening. It's Thursday, February 27th, 2025. You're watching Co-op for Two, and we are continuing our playthrough of Murder on the Moon, a 3-part plus prologue game from the Detective Society. Last night we played the prologue. It exceeded my expectations. It was a very enjoyable game, and I'm hoping we're going to get more of the same here. Let's check in with the chat. We've got a small crowd today. I've noticed in the last week the YouTube subscribers and viewers of the channel are going down. So that might mean we're in a special place here where we're in our little hibernation secret stage of the channel. Nothing wrong with that. We can consolidate our viewers here. It doesn't matter if anyone watches this channel, I'll still be here playing. Okay, so if you haven't watched the playthrough yesterday, that's not a deal breaker here. I believe the prologue was an optional thing. This game was kickstarted last year, 2024 or so. And it's not clear what the connection to the prologue and the main game is. I think it's just going to be a totally independent story, but I'm not sure. But I do know that it is optional. The prologue is optional. When you purchase this game now on the website, this box here has 3 episodes and it's $90 plus shipping, I guess. And the prologue is a totally separate purchase. $15, you can get it independently. But we got a couple of clues. This is the first Detective Society game that I've played. They make some big expensive boxes of 6 episodes each. There's like 3 or 4 of them. They're like $180 each. They're very expensive, but I'm curious to see if the quality that we saw in the prologue holds up through this. If so, I'll probably be trying to get the rest of the boxes. I do have one of their box sets. This one here was purchased used. I don't remember who I bought it from, but they seem to have taken good care of the prologue, so I suspect we're going to have a smooth experience here. Lots of internet use, but very well done, and no need to go searching around the internet. We didn't have to go to Facebook or Instagram. Everything was on their custom-made sites. All right, and quite a bit of humor as well. Looks like we've got our viewers from yesterday back. All right, let's get started here. I hope everyone is doing well. I did post a little question on the YouTube channel about what times are best for people. We're starting today at 10 p.m. I really can't move around my times too much because I like playing overnight, but whether we start at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. doesn't make a difference to me. So if it makes a difference to the viewers of this channel, I can try to favor one over the other. I guess there are very few people in the US who are up overnight with me here, although that's where I am, but maybe the night owls. But then I think, do we have people in Europe? It's morning time, but then I was thinking, well, maybe 10 p.m. is too early in the morning for them. They would prefer it at night. Let me know. Okay, Murder on the Moon. So a couple differences from the prologue we noted. They've bumped up the age range and they've bumped up the hours. Prologue said it was about 60 minutes. This one, 3 sessions, looks like maybe an hour and a half each session they're aiming for. Okay, there's our prologue, and there's just a discount thing. And then what we care about is here. So today we're going to be playing episode 1, case 1. We don't need the rest of that. So there's 3 episodes. This one is by far the thickest. And it did say somewhere, I forget where, I'm sure they'll repeat it, that they might not be self-contained, in that it says, like, don't hold on to episode 1 even when you get to episode 2. So I don't know how if it's going to really be like keep everything or just that there is one part, I don't know. But, okay. So, we've got, we have a little introduction. I just see random things. Yes, there's our introduction. And then we've got some stacks of stuff. Looks like it was put back right where they found it. Okay, that's a good sign. Okay, let's read our little introduction here. Boy, that's white. Okay, from again, Lunovos Industries. Hello, detective. Thank you for taking on this case. My name is Rosalie Hardy, and I'm in command of a mission to create the first permanent base on the moon. But the entire undertaking is under threat. Yesterday, one of our crew, Samuel Douglas, was found dead. I'm certain he was murdered. The question we need answering quickly is by who? The crew are understandably panicking, but not because they think one of their crewmates is a murderer. They actually think that someone else or something else is responsible. Ever since we arrived on the moon, members of the crew have been reporting odd goings-on. A figure seen out of the corner of their eye where no one could be, items gone missing randomly from the stores, inexplicable noises in the middle of the night. Some of the crew are convinced that a 13th person stowed away on our rocket and is at the base with us, living in the shadows. A couple of the crew have even discussed that there might be some kind of life form living amongst us. Now, I want to be very clear. I don't think there's anyone else on the base. I certainly don't think there are any moon monsters or aliens running around, but I need to know what the cause of Sam's death was, and fast. Otherwise, complete pandemonium will set in. My colleagues on Earth have put together the materials in this package for you. It contains as much information about the mission that they could get their hands on at short notice. Now, I suspect that normally a detective would do the legwork, but that's going to be tricky as there's more than 200,000 miles between us. I'll be on hand, though, to do anything up here that you need me to do. I've set up a live chat so we can speak to each other. When you're ready, follow this link and I'll update you on the situation. Okay, so I've got a new contact person, Rosalie Hardy. Same system here where we can talk to someone on an AI chat thing. Although here she hasn't given us an assignment and talk to her when we're finished. She's basically said when you're ready to get started, you can talk to her. So I guess we're going to examine our materials first, and then we'll go here to get started. Okay, so Sam Douglas, was that one of the people that we met in the prologue? I think it was. I like this setup. Like, it could be one of the people that are on this mission, or it could be a 13th person that we don't know about, or it could be a monster. All right. Let's see. We've got an autopsy. We're just going to look at our items first. We've got an explanation of the base. Door logs, I guess, presumably around the time of the murder. We've got some stickers here. Lunavos Schools Activity Pack. Okay. How to build the model of the dome. About various craters. And then it looks like we have some pieces we can use to assemble a 3D moon base. I see this one came out a little bent, but not too bad. All right, so I guess we'll be assembling something, and then it looks like we have a board of some sort here. I guess it's a map of the moon base of the moon. All right, so maybe we'll be using this. Maybe we could leave it out. Leave it out upside down for now. All right, so let's put these pieces off to the side. And well, I guess we should contact this person at the QR code. Otherwise, we're reading about an autopsy that we don't know anything about. All right, let's start with this then. Chat link. Okay, I guess we're going to need some audio for this. I'm going to try. Let me see if I can do this way. And then let's see if I can bring it up full screen for you guys. So I see we have a video and a chat link. All right, let's try the video and let's see if we can hear it together. You hear it? Yes, you hear it, but I don't. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Sorry.
Oh, I think this is working. Oh, hi, Detective. I'm Rosalie Hardy, the commander up here on the moon base. I think you should have received my note. I am so glad you're here. I really need your help. As you know, there's been a horrible murder here on the base. To be honest, there've been a few strange goings on here for a while now, and well, it's all culminated in this. We need to work together as a team to get to the bottom of this. You should have some resources in front of you that I think will help with the investigation. I'm now going to quickly pass you over to Johann Wolf, the CEO of Lunavos, the company in charge of the moon mission. He wanted to talk to you about the urgency and importance of this case, if it wasn't already obvious. Once he's finished talking to you, click the link to open a chat directly with me, and we can figure this out together.
Hi, Johann Wolf here, CEO of Lunavos. Really great to meet you. Couple of things I wanted to say before you kick off this whole investigation. Firstly, I want you to know how invested we were in this moon mission. I was so damn excited about it, breaking new ground, building new horizons. I'm devastated that it has come to this. A murder on the moon. Obviously, it throws the whole mission into turmoil. What if there are more murders? We can't afford for anything else to go wrong, or we'll have to pull the whole mission. You and your society have come highly recommended to us, so I trust you will help us find a speedy resolution. Good luck, Detective. Better get to work.
Okay, and it's sending us right to the chat. Okay. Let's go back and see. All right, that worked fairly smoothly. There's no time to waste. We need to get to work. I think it would help for you to get your bearings of the base. I sent you one of our school's activity packs. It's actually very detailed. Get that map all labeled and the domes put together. Write back to me when you've assembled it all. If you need help, at any point, just tell me that and I'll try to assist you. Okay, so they want us to build this map. All right, so we're done with that for now. And we're supposed to build this map of the moon. We've got stickers, we've got punch out boards, and we've got an activity pack, which looks like it's got instructions on how to put it all together. Now, I have a theory here. I'm going to tell you about it in a second. But let's admire the production quality here. So this is something they would use in schools? Life on the base. There's a dome entrance between the command center and the oxygen generator. I'm Zoo. And okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So here are the 12 people on this mission. And Samuel Douglas is the one who was killed. Okay, we didn't meet him before. He was not in our prologue, but this is going to be the guy who ended up getting killed here. He's responsible for making sure all of the electrical systems across the base work. He rarely gets electrocuted. Okay. And then, let's see. Want to know what our moon base is really like? Well, you can, she says. We've given you a map of our base and a 3D model of the domes that make up our habitat. All you need to do is assemble the domes, place them on the map, and then you can see what we see when we're on the moon. Exciting, right? Okay, so we're to put together the dome. And then there's a description here of the layout. Below you see a map with the layout of our domes. Each of the domes is a very specific place. We've labeled them below to help you identify each one. Everything on the base is perfectly positioned. I can even see the common room from my bedroom, says Reese. Okay, so maybe there's going to be some important detail about who can see who. So we got a whole bunch of domes, not just one dome. Let's see, we've got Dome F, Dome A, Dome E, D, B, and C. I guess we have to build them all. It looks like each sheet is one dome, so let's go ahead. And is this who lives there in this dome? These 3 people? I don't know about that. So, oh, we've got mini domes and big domes. Okay, I see. And then these are... All right, let's see if we can make sense of this activity. So here's the common room hydroponic. Looks like I guess this is going to be a little bit of a puzzle. Okay, so I can see these go together because they're the same colors. Rosalie's bedroom, the oxygen generator command center, and Rolando's bedroom. So what do we see here? Any clue who lives where? No, but actually, I guess that's going to be part of the puzzle, because this guy says, one of them said, I can see, no, she said, here the dome entrance between command center and oxygen center. Okay, so I see that we're going to have to, the little puzzle here is going to be figuring out which dome is where and putting them together. So purple, not that one. Okay. All right, I'm just going to punch all these out and we'll start to fill them out. All right. Well, this might not be the most enjoyable thing to sit through, but you can talk amongst yourselves. We've got these little mini domes. Maybe we'll sort them by size. That's a medium dome. Mini domes over here. There's bottoms and tops. Mediums over here. Talls. Okay, so there's only one big one. And let's see, how does it go together? It looks like it's this right here, okay? So I'm just matching textures, wallpaper textures, and there's only one big one, and matching the textures, the fine grid. You can see the fine grid on the floor, and here you've got the blue floor, and here you've got the gray floor. So that makes it go like that. Okay, so that's that guy. We don't know what orientation it is, but that's the only big one there. All right, this looks like it must match this floor. And then for the little guys, we've got a pink floor and an aquamarine floor. That's this one here. There's an orange floor. It's got to go with that one. Orange floor. White, purple. Looks like that's got to go that way. That's that one. That's that one. Okay, so those are those organized, and each one should have a bottom and a top. Bottom, top. Bottom, top. Okay, so we can put these together now by matching their colors. Okay, fair enough. Nothing unpleasant about this so far. Just a little cute activity. There seems to be a trend recently, actually, in making these pop-up mystery games, which do not appeal to me, like the haunted house that's a full pop-up model. I get the appeal of it, but it's not where I want my efforts to be focused. But this looks like it might be something that we are going to use for spatial stuff, for multiple puzzles, so maybe it's worth it. Okay, so we've got, oh, I didn't do this one. All right, now it's important that these get assembled right, because we're going to have to figure out who is where. This one doesn't seem to be seating all that well. Not sure why. Okay, maybe it's good enough. So we've got small ones, medium ones. Okay, there we go. There's our bases, but not necessarily in the right location or at the right orientation. And then we've got all these people, which clearly we're going to have to figure out who sleeps where. Okay, do we have 12 people? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, there's our 12 people on this mission. No extra stowaway or creature. And then we've got these stickers that the previous owner did not use. So I'm being asked in the chat a question I'm asking myself. Are you going to add the stickers to the board? That's a good question. I'm not sure. It's only the Patreon supporters that have made it possible to buy these more expensive games and even allow me to consider not worrying about such things. Normally, if it's a cheap enough game, I will just put the stickers on or use it. But for the more expensive games, I tend not to, because you can only play these games once, obviously. But one of the benefits of having the Patreon supporters help pay for these things is that I'm willing to put the stickers on and use these things only once, but we'll see. I mean, the easier thing to do would be during a break, which is probably what we'll do just because it's so easy. During the break, I'll just scan this and we'll cut them out and put them on the board. All right, let's just walk through how we think we're going to figure this stuff out, and what we're going to figure out. So here are stickers that we're supposed to put on the map. They really can only go in one orientation. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 of them. Okay, so let's talk for a second. Let's talk for a second about what this is, because Exit the Game does this as well. And it's worth dwelling on this for a second, because this is particularly egregious. And for a $90 game, really egregious. So what have they done here with these stickers? What's the purpose of this? Each one is a very specific shape. It can only go one place, right? So this sticker must go here. 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 There's no deduction. There's no figuring anything out. What's going on here? Why are we putting these stickers on this board? What's the designer's goal? What's the intention? This is a fully printed board. It's got what have they done? Why do we have this little sticker sheet? Just so you can't say you're selling it pristine once the stickers are applied. Yes, Jonathan is thinking how I'm thinking. Kyle has some nice alternate version. No, I believe the entire point here is much of the point of the Exit games always having one puzzle where you cut things. They are making it just that much harder for you to pass this game along. And in this case, it's particularly egregious because it's not serving any functionality. Yeah, I mean, it's possible that we're going to see some other feature of this game in a future episode where we're changing the stickers or something. But to me, this just feels like it was done just so you couldn't pass it along cleanly. Although I guess, you know, the idea is you're giving this to little kids. Maybe you would put these kinds of things in a game, but I don't love it. All right, let's not worry about that, though. I mean, I guess we did worry about it, but let's move on to this, to the more puzzly aspects of this. So we think we're going to have to figure out where some of these go among their possible spots, and then who sleeps in which dome. And I'm guessing that these need to be on here so that because people are going to reference them. So actually, rather than putting those, we'll just put the equivalents on here, and then during a break, we'll cut them out. But let's go ahead and do them this way. So this one is OOQUEAH. Not sure why. And then this one over here is Ejinwa. And then we've got Siglu over here. Hopefully these green stickers aren't going to make my cubes go crazy. And then we have OOTAH, Uta, over here. Okay. And we can just put those away for later. All right, let's see if we can't work on this puzzle now of what goes where. Okay, we've given you a map of our base, a 3D model of the domes. All you need to do is assemble the domes, place them on the map, and then you can see what we see when we're on the moon. Exciting, right? Okay, so Zoo says, there's a dome entrance between the command center and the oxygen generator. It is, those little green stickers are going to confuse it. I shouldn't have used green. Okay, there's a dome entrance between the command center and the oxygen generator. Okay, let's see. So I see the command center is here. It's either here or here or here. And here's our key, the dome entrance. Oops, can't see that. Dome entrance and exit. So let's see. Entrance and exit. She says there's a dome entrance between the command center and the oxygen generator. Okay, command center and oxygen generator. So here, between these two is an entrance and exit. So it could be here. Maybe we'll take these off the thing. Okay, so they all have an entry and exit. So it's just telling us the orientation. This could be here if it's dome B, or it's here if it's dome C. So let's just assume it's there for a second. Each dome is a very specific place. We've labeled them below to help you identify each one. That's just the same as this map. Everything on the base is perfectly positioned. I can even see the common room from my bedroom. So wherever Reese is, he can see the common room and the bedroom. Okay, let's not worry about bedrooms yet. David says, living with the crew is a dream. We're like a big happy family. Me and Courtney always wave to each other from our rooms just before we go to sleep. Okay, that's another bedroom thing. I can see my main workplace in Dome B from my bedroom. Okay. All the meals that are eaten on the base are made from ingredients acquired in one of two ways. Either they're grown by Carol. Let me bring this up so you can see. Either they're grown by Carol, grown by Coral, our lovely botanist, in the hydroponics lab, or they're delivered by rocket from Earth from the supply at Lunovos Industries. Then our chef, Courtney, works miracles to make them into a delicious meal. Okay, that's fine. Let's see if we can see more stuff here. Okay, so different information about each of the craters. Each one has its own unique regolith, lunar soil. Okay. Our moon base is located on the northern rim of the Peary crater, named after Robert Peary, the polar explorer. This is the perfect place for a moon base. I guess that's the whole complex. A lot of the moon is cold and dark, an awful place to be, but the northern rim is in near constant sunlight. This means temperatures in this area are only negative 58 Fahrenheit, which, believe it or not, is pretty warm for the moon. Our mission is to bring the first habitable moon base from paper into reality, and we did it. We now have a fully working habitat on the moon from which our team can carry out essential research projects on moon living and how the base might be expanded. Over the coming years, we're going to use our research and latest technology to build the base into a large neighborhood, allowing hundreds more people to call outer space their home. Okay. So I guess the rest of our clues, unless they're on other documents, are all going to be here. Okay, Rosalie Hardy, that's the woman we talked to on voice chat. Bold leader ensuring the success of the mission, the safety of our crew. Okay, there's Rosalie. I'll put them up here. Maybe it's a little hard. Going to be a little hard for me to keep switching. Okay, Arlo Daniels, structural engineer. He's in charge of our lunar habitat. If it goes up and you don't want it to come down, then Arlo is the person you need. There's Coral, the botanist. She has the vital job of ensuring we can grow plants on the moon, which is pretty important if we want to eat, which we do. Okay. Coral. Next up, Courtney Darwin, the chef. Courtney is the most popular person on the crew because she cooks our meals. It's not easy, but luckily she's a culinary genius. Okay. David Knight, the geologist. David is our geologist. He researches the very rocks under our feet and uses his knowledge to plan the future expansion of our base. Then we have Fatima. Fatima is the doctor, Fatima Baghi. Fatima keeps us all healthy and happy with her great doctoring and fantastic sense of humor. She's one doctor you don't want to keep away. Okay. Then we have Isadora Whelan. They all look like kids. But I think that they don't all look like this. This is the kids' activity pack for schools. So they've just aged them down for this pack. This is not how they really look. Isadora is the brainy engineer of the group. She can often be found in her workshop maintaining the systems that keep us alive. Okay, that's Isadora. Then we have Nora Gomez, the robotics engineer. Not all tasks can be done by our brilliant crew, but fortunately we have some great robots, all of whom are managed by Nora. I hope we're going to interact with these robots. Maybe the robots are going crazy and that's who's doing all this. Reese Williams is the biochemist. Reese is a great scientist. He carries out research to further our understanding of the moon so we can make living here even better. Rolando Kolarik, the pilot and geologist. Rolando piloted the ship that brought us to the moon, and he can take us back if necessary. He also likes rocks. Then we have Samuel Douglas, the dead guy, the electrical engineer. We heard about him before. And then lastly, we have Zhu Tang, the mechanical engineer. She oversees all the mechanical elements of the base, working with all our other wonderful engineers to ensure the success of our mission. Okay, so I thought we were going to get more constraints from them. So far, the only constraints we have then are these small number. There's a dome entrance between the command center and the oxygen generator. All right, so we did that, but that could be in one of three places. We don't know where this is. Let me take the ones. We don't know where this is either. We just know that it's oriented either like that or like that. I guess those are the only two ones that are medium-sized. Okay, so we've used her constraint. This one says, I can see my main workplace in Dome B from my bedroom window. She can see her workplace in Dome B. Okay, Dome B is which one? This one. Okay, so is her workplace here? Oh, I see. Rosalie's bedroom. So we have Rosalie's bedroom. So actually we can put Rosalie in her bedroom here. This one is Rosalie's bedroom. And this one is Rolando's bedroom. I see. So we actually are told where their bedrooms are. Okay, so if she can see her workplace in Dome B from her bedroom, and her workplace is not here, then that must mean that this dome is over here. And then Dome B is the engineering workshop, the electrical substation, Zoo's bedroom, and Fatima's bedroom. So I'm going to put them in their place. And her workplace of Isadora. Isadora is the systems engineer. So engineering is here. So we know where this is Dome B. And we know that wherever Isadora is, she can see her workplace. Okay, let's find Isadora's bedroom. There is bedroom. Geology lab, David's bedroom, Nora's bedroom, storeroom, geology lab. Here we have biochemical, Coral's bedroom, Courtney's bedroom, Isadora's bedroom. Okay, so Isadora goes there. Courtney goes here. Coral goes here. And who's here? Biochemical lab. Okay, so Isadora, Isadora must be over here, and engineering must be here. So Isadora can see into her engineering. Let's see if we can turn these around. Hopefully that's right. All right, what else do we have? I guess I can put people in there. Samuel's bedroom, Arlo's bedroom, Reese's bedroom. And then we have David's bedroom and Nora's bedroom. Okay, fine. All right, who do we know next? David says, me and Courtney always wave to each other from our rooms just before we go to sleep. So David waves to Courtney. Okay, there's Courtney. Courtney, and there's Nora. So do you think he's waving to her that way? Probably. So he could be waving to her through that way. That would be consistent. If so, I'm assuming these things orthogonally line up with entrance and exit. So we've got 1, 2, 3 placed, 4 placed, we think. Okay, what's next? I can even see the common room from my bedroom, says Reese. Okay, where is Reese? Here. Okay, and where is our common room? Okay, common room. I wouldn't mind if these stuck in a little better. Common room is here at some orientation. This has to be Reese's place. It must be like this if he's going to see anything here. And then he must be facing the common room, which is here. Common room. So I think that that's the entirety of our constraint satisfaction. I think we now have every place uniquely assigned. I believe that's it. That is the unique assignment. And we've used all the information, at least all the information on this. And now it would sure be nice to maybe tape these down or something so they don't move around. Okay. So we've solved that bit of the puzzle. Trying to clear some space here. Okay, thrilling TV, I know. The hardest part is actually that it's this little 3D thing that's going to be hard to, hopefully we won't have to do too much work with it. They sent children to the moon. There's robots. All right, let's see what else there is for us to do here. She says, when you're ready, follow this link. Okay, and we talked to her, and she said, get that map labeled and the domes put together. Write me back when you've assembled it all. Okay, so before we write her back, let's just make sure that... Okay, so I'm not going to read the autopsy yet, but I do want to look at this first. Moon base, Piri crater in the northern rim. Aerial view, central corridor, entrance and exit. There's one main door into each dome. Each room is then accessed from the dome's central corridor. So you come in and then you can split off. Entry and exit from each dome require the scanning of a security card. You cannot see from one room into another. Okay, so they're all isolated. This room can't see into here and vice versa, but you could see outside. Entry and exit from each dome require the scanning of a security card, ensuring people can't enter domes they're not authorized to access. Each card is biocoded to its user, meaning it can't be used by anyone else. Okay, so you need a card to get into a dome, and that dome is locked per person. And it's bioscanned. You can't use someone else's card. Okay, to enter a dome, you must enter the airlock where your suit will be decontaminated. The room will then pressurize. You must then remove your spacesuit, hang it on in the suit storage bay. This is to ensure that no regolith, i.e. lunar soil, makes it inside the base. Regolith contain tiny glass particles which can be harmful to the oxygen generator if they enter the filtration system, or be harmful to the crew if the particles enter the lung. When exiting a dome, you must first enter the dome's airlock, put on your spacesuit, depressurize the chamber. You may then exit the airlock and walk out onto the moon's surface. Okay, so there's a real process coming and going. All right, let's check in with our client here. Okay. So right back when you've assembled it all. Okay, so it's assembled. Guess it takes a while to reach the moon. Fantastic. Now you know how the base is laid out. I hope you have the domes oriented correctly. That can be tricky. Yeah, okay. Oh, wait. This is terrible timing, but I've actually found a picture of the base so that you can check you got everything in the correct place. Okay. Now on to the murder. Okay, let's check that we've got everything properly assembled. Okay, here's our little check. Let's see. Dome C in the upper right. Rolando's room should be here. That is Rolando. So it looks like we got that right. Rosalie is over here. Sorry, let's just see if we can't put this on the screen at the same time for you. Okay. Dome C, Rosalie and Rolando. We got that right. Okay, Dome B, we said, is Fatima and Zhu. Zhu, is that how we pronounce that? So we got that correct. Dome D is Isadora and Courtney and Coral. So we got that correct. I guess we should be checking the orientation too, right? Oh no, I mean, I guess that is the orientation. Okay, Dome A, water treatment should be here, common room here, kitchen, we got that right. Dome F should be Sam's bedroom, Arlo's bedroom, and Reese, so we got that right. And then down here, we've got Nora, David, storeroom, geology lab. Okay, so we got it all correct. That's good work on my part. And we can print this out. And we don't have to worry about this physical map anymore, actually. This screen here tells us everything that this 3D scene tells us. So let's in fact take an image of it, take a screenshot, and then we can mark this up. And you guys can see the URL if you want to download your own copy. Jonathan says, good work, Jesse. Okay. And let's bookmark this. Okay, well done. Right, now, on to the murder. I'm suspicious Sam's body might have been moved after he died. He was found in the biochemical lab, but he had no reason to be in there. The problem is I can't see any evidence that he was moved. Can you? I guess maybe we should look at his autopsy again. So what does it say? He was found in the biochemical lab. Where is our biochemical lab? easier to just use this than the physical. Biochemical lab is here. I can't see it, so I'm doing it this way. Biochemical lab is here. Okay, so she says, I actually brought up a new, yes, okay. Anyway, she says that his body was found there. He had no reason to be in there. I can't see any evidence that he was moved. I think that's got to be some combination of the door logs and the autopsy. Okay, let's take a look at the autopsy then first that we've been putting off. All right. So the medical bay is in Dome E. And Fatima is our doctor. She's did the examination. Samuel Matthew Douglas, Caucasian male, 33. There's his home address. He lives in London. He's an electrical engineer. Type of death was suspicious, unusual or unnatural. Lack of oxygen. Investigation performed by Fatima Baghi in the presence of Rosalie Hardy. That's the woman we talked to. He was clothed, blue eyes, brown hair, no mustache, light stubble on his beard, 171 pounds, 5'11". He does have rigor mortis. No obvious, so that gives her how little time of death information. No obvious marks or wounds on the body. There was no apparent bodily harm done. However, he's got traces of regolith. There's signs that he was what? Possibly dragged? If it's on his nose, that might suggest he's breathing it. I don't know why it would be there, though. No obvious marks or wounds, no apparent bodily harm. Traces of regolith were found in the victim's trachea and lungs. Ah, it's internal. So he was breathing it. The regolith contained high levels of iron, low levels of aluminum, and average levels of calcium and average levels of silicon. Okay, so these are related to these craterlets, it seems. So maybe we can figure out where he was, what craterlet he might have been near. Probable cause of death is asphyxiation, lack of oxygen. Actual manner of death is unknown. Disposition, an autopsy was required by her. All right, so what have we got? He's got dust in his lungs, which suggests that he was out on a surface without his suit. And now we're going to figure out where. All right. High values, high levels of iron, low levels of aluminum. Is there a better way to do this? Yes, there we go. All right. What do you see? High levels of iron, 24, 24, 4, and 27. So not here. Possibly here. Low levels of aluminum, 2%, 10%, 4%, 10%. So not here. Well, not here because it's got high levels of aluminum, and not here because it's got low levels of iron. Average levels of calcium and silicon. Okay. Calcium 12, silicon 18. Silicon 39, 17. 18, 17, 9. Well, I don't know. Are we told somewhere what average is? Because here it seems to be split. Average levels of silicone, average levels of calcium, 12, 20, 14, 6. I guess average then you might say is here. Between 6 and 20, average would be 12 calcium or 14. Okay, so it could still be either of those for calcium. Average levels of silicone go from 30 to 9. So that puts it here. Because this is low levels of silicone, this would be our average. So this has average silicone and calcium and high levels of iron and low levels of aluminum. So this is where he was, Uta. And if we look on our map, okay, the map doesn't label it. All right, well, let's just write down, though, where we think he was. Okay, we don't need those. So if we bring up our map again, there's where we think the body must have been. And then he's been brought into here. Right? That's all the proof we need. He's inhaling the dust from outside near Uta craterlet. He couldn't have just run out of oxygen here, otherwise he wouldn't have the stuff. And then I wonder if we could use the logs to help us. We have a time of death. Not on this, we don't. How about movement of him? Let's see. Here's Samuel Douglas. At 6:55 p.m., he enters Dome A, which is our central dome. And at 7:15, he leaves Dome A. Somehow he ends up in Dome. Where were we told he was found? He was found in the biochemical lab. All right, so he's found in the biochemical lab. But we know he left Dome A at 7:15. So somehow he leaves Dome A. He must have ended up here, near here somewhere. And then someone brings him back into here. Well, who do we have entering Dome D after 1914? Let's see. Well, Isadora enters D. So does Rolando enters D. So does Coral. So does Arlo. No, Arlo is out of there before she would have time. So we need to find someone who entered D well after 1914. But we can't say the last person there would have seen it because we don't know what room they went into in D. But presumably, Isadora, Courtney, and Coral have rooms in there. So we could ask who's going in there that doesn't have a room in there. Reese is going in. In fact, Reese is going in early, but then he's also going in there late, 1947. We don't have a time of death, huh? We have a time that he was found? No. All right, let me see. So Rolando, but no, he doesn't have a bedroom. I don't know why he was in D. Biochemistry. Does Rolando belong in biochemistry? Let's do it this way. Rolando, maybe I can bring it up here so you can see it better. Okay, Rolando is entering Dome D well after Samuel leaves at 9:14. So he could have brought in the body at 1927. Fatima, no. Courtney, no. Coral, yes, although that is cutting it very close, but she did come back in there at 1944, so that could be her. 1912 is too soon because our guy didn't leave A until 1914, so not there. So not Arlo. What about Isadora? Yes. And Reese, yes. Okay, so we've got 4 people that could have dragged in his body. Isadora lives there. She has a reason to be there. Reese doesn't live there. Coral lives there. And Rolando doesn't live there. Isadora and Coral live there. Let me use these this way. Okay, Reese is in there for reasons unknown, and Rolando is in there for reasons unknown. Presumably, they would only be their cards would only let them in if they had a purpose for being there, right? So if that's the biochem lab, then the question is Rolando and Reese. Reese comes in at 1947. Rolando is out of there by then. First comes Reese, in and out. Then comes Rolando, 1927, 1931, in and out. And then lastly comes Reese at 1947. So if she says I was in there and I saw the body when I came in, then this guy would be implicated, Rolando. Rolando is the pilot. He also likes rocks. I don't know what the pilot is doing in biochem. What about Reese? She's the scientist and studies. She's the biochemist. So she belongs in there. But what is Rolando doing in there? That's the question. These 2 live there. This girl works there. This guy, who seems like he's there right before this. And what about, is he also in the room where our victim was? Our victim enters Dome A at 1855 and he exits A at 1914. This guy exits A at 1909. Okay, so he didn't drag his body out because he's out before him. All right, well, Rolando is the person I'm most suspicious about, but might not be one of our people. All right, what's our assignment here? I'm suspicious someone may have moved the body. I can't see any evidence that he was moved. Yes, we can see evidence he's moved because he's inhaling moon dust near the crater. So we're going to say yes. Does it want to know our proof? I think we should take a look at the autopsy report. That will surely help. Make sure you've looked at everything else I've provided you as well. Is there anything else we haven't looked at? No. Okay. So maybe it wants us to say what the proof is. Breathing regolith from, what's the name of that? Utah. Oh my, of course, the regolith in the lungs. We go to extreme lengths to make sure our bodies don't come into contact with it, as it can have very harmful effects. I think the fact that he was moved proves that it was murder, but we need more information. If Sam was moved, then where was he killed? Okay, so this is the near Utah one. The Utah crater, that makes perfect sense. The biochemical lab is close to there, so the killer could have easily dragged their body straight to the lab and left it there. With the moon's gravity, it would have taken even the fittest member of the crew at least 4 minutes to drag Sam's body from the crater to the lab. I included the door logs from the hour before Reese discovered Sam's body. Okay, so now we are told that Reese discovered the body. That's the last piece of the puzzle we needed. 1948 was the body discovered, which is exactly here. There's the consistent. Reese walks into D at 1948 because she works there, he works there, sees the body. So we've got other people coming into D, but they live there. Rolando, the only place he could have been going into is that biochem place, and that seems like he would have come there at 1931, completely consistent, 1927 to 1931. So I think there's our Rolando. But let's see, what else do we have here? I need you to let me know the names of everyone who could have killed Sam and moved him into the biochem lab. I had a quick look, and I think there might be 3 who are possible. He was last seen leaving the canteen. Also, good to note that they clearly weren't seen in the act. Okay, so we do have the 3 people, not including Reese, because Reese couldn't have done it. It would have taken too long to get into D the first time. So here are our 3 people: Isadora, Rolando, and Coral. Let's just make sure that's right. Isadora entered Dome D at 1932. So that's consistent and possible. I just think it's that she lives there, so that's not going to be it. Coral entered at 1921. That's theoretically possible, and at 1944, although I guess she would have still been there. But those are all consistent with being dropped off before the body discovered at 1947. And then Rolando enters at 1927. That's also consistent. So each of these 3 people could have theoretically dropped off the body. All right, so we can put those answers in now. They weren't seen in the act. I'm not sure why that's relevant. Okay, so we say Rolando. You stop me if you think I'm wrong about any of this. Coral and Isadora. Fantastic work. We now know that one of these three was the killer. It's so strange. I can't believe any of them had it in them to kill Sam. I have no idea why they would have. Whilst you were working on that, I felt so useless. I'm the commander of this mission and I need to feel like I'm doing my bit to help. So I went out and recorded a witness statement from every member of the crew. I'm really hoping that they help you narrow the suspects down from 3 to 1. Remember, whoever did it won't want to own up to it, so they'll almost certainly be lying in their statement. Here's a link to the recorded statements. Tell me the name of the person that killed Sam as soon as you know. All right, so we're going to hear from them now with some multimedia. We'll take a little break before we do. I guess I'll remind you of the other details when we get back right before we listen to it. So I'll see you in 8 minutes. All right, I've scanned the craters. I've printed out our screenshot. And while I was at the Space Canteen, I discovered a new delivery up to the moon. Orange cream Coke Zero. So we're going to do a little taste test here. There's a guy on YouTube who does taste tests of like Taco Bell and stuff, Burger King, in his suit. It's a very weird thing. He's got like 1 million subscribers. So this could be my future. Yeah, it tastes like orange cream weekly report. Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, it tastes like a little orange cream Coke Zero. You could have one can of it. I don't know why you'd ever want another. I am a sucker for the new flavors. I saw something about the new flavor of Doritos Golden Sriracha. So I got it. Pretty meh. But there are lots of people on YouTube doing taste tests and stuff, and some of them have their gimmick. Some of them, I just saw some guy like drank, 2 liters in one gulp. It is pretty insane. I really don't. I guess it sort of depends. What is your goal? Is your goal to just get more subscribers? Is that the idea? You just got to find the gimmick. I have seen the videos of the people being like, all right, what I like is playing these kinds of games, but what YouTube analytics tells me the people want is these kinds of games. So I'm just going to do the ones that the people like. Maybe you don't care. Maybe that's not the fun of it, so it doesn't matter. For me though, this is what we've stumbled into. The intersection of what I enjoy playing, and that's it. There's no intersection. It's just that we've got the entire Venn diagram. Here are the games that I enjoy playing with no one else with me. All right. So what were we supposed to be doing? Oh, watching the recorded statements. Yes. Okay. So the main thing I want to point out before we watch these statements and see if we can't find the liar, I want to remind you that 2 of our people actually live in that dome. Isadora and Coral. And Rolando is the one that doesn't live there. Rolando is the one that doesn't live there. In fact, where does he end up? Let me just look at him. He's the one where I'm going to be watching closely. He enters Dome D at 1927. That would have given him 13 minutes between when Samuel leaves and when he drops off his body. So that is enough time. And if he is our culprit, like, it's interesting to see what these people did afterwards. And maybe even before. Hey, look at this. This is why it's going to be Rolando. Look at this. 1854, Rolando goes into A. Look who comes in a minute later. Our victim. Our victim comes in. This guy arrives at A. A victim comes in. This guy leaves. He's followed soon after by Samuel leaving. Then he goes into F. Then he goes into D. And then he goes back into A. And then he goes into C, which might be his home. All right, so I am suspicious of, is that his home? Yes, that is absolutely his home. A is the large dome. So he is there right when this guy is. Yeah, I wonder. All right, now let's go listen to the statements. All right, I'm going to need your help here. Studying people for lies. So did I add the screen that I was complaining about not having last time? Yes. Okay, so now you guys can talk to each other. F is the dome where the murder took place outside. No. The bodies found in D, and the dome near the crater is C. That's the dome near where it occurred, which is also Rolando's home dome, home base. Actually, dome F is all the way over here. So Rolando left A, goes to F, and then ends up going into D where the body is found. He's got 8 minutes between leaving F and ending up in D with the body, if that's indeed what he did. 8 minutes. That's pretty tight. 8 minutes between leaving here, killing him, and getting the body here. That's pretty tight. All right, well, let's listen to their statements. We'll get our notes ready. I'll bring up the screen that we can all, you guys can talk while we listen. Unless we want to do it full screen. Okay. What the hell? Everyone got interviewed? Not just the 3? Wow, okay. We're going to have to listen to them all. Are they actors? No, these are the real people that were on the moon. But now, do we want to listen to these in order? Yes. What order should we listen to these in? All right, let's listen to Rosalie first. She's our person.
In the interest of transparency, I realise I should make one of these statements as well as everyone else. So here's what I recall from that night. I had my dinner with everyone else in the canteen, chatted for a bit, and then headed over to the command centre to check in with Mission Control and update them about how we were getting on. And that's where I stayed. Right up until Reese radioed to say that he had discovered Sam's body.
Okay, this is going to be tricky with 12 different statements, but maybe we could check each one for consistency at least. So she says she was in the cantina, which is here. Here she is. She enters Dome A at 1854. Okay, let's see if we can. She enters the cantina at 1854 with everyone else, she says. Then she gets a call from Reese saying he's found the body, which would be at 1947. Let me listen to her again, because she's clearly not in the cantina the whole time. She's in Dome C. Oh, command center, she said.
Statements as well as everyone else. Yeah, so here's what I recall from that night. I had my dinner with everyone else in the canteen, chatted for a bit, and then headed over to the command centre to check in with Mission Control and update them about how we were getting on. And that's where I stayed. Right up until Reese radioed to say that he had discovered Sam's body.
Okay, so that's completely consistent with what she said. She was here in A. She went to the command center until she got the call. Completely consistent. Okay. I should have made a copy of this to write on. All right, let's listen to the next one. Maybe we'll go through them in this order. So the next one is our chief suspect, Rolando. Let's see what he has to say. I'll trace him on the
After
map.
dinner, I went with Fatima to the infirmary, as she wanted to show me how her study was progressing. I then headed over to the biochemistry lab, and on the way I saw Isadora. We waved at each other. I went over to her and spoke to her for at least 5 minutes about the ship. I then popped into the biochemical lab for a bit to see if Reese was there, but he wasn't, so I headed back to Dome A to see if Reese was there. But again, no sign, so I decided that I'd just speak to him in the morning and headed back to Dome C to go to sleep. After dinner, I went with Fatima to the infirmary, as she wanted to show me how her study was progressing. I then headed over to the biochemistry lab, and on the way I saw Isadora. We waved at each other. I went over to her and spoke to her for at least 5 minutes about the ship. I then popped...
Hold on. He went to the biochemistry lab afterwards.
I then headed over to the biochemistry lab, and on the way I saw Isadora. We waved at each other. I went over to her and spoke to her for at least 5 minutes about the ship. I then popped into the biochemical lab for a bit to see if Reese was there, but he wasn't, so I headed back to Dome A to see if Reese was there.
He's looking for Reese. And he goes back to Dome A. But am I missing something about the biochemistry and biochemical lab? Seems like he's talking about going to the same place twice. Sorry, I need to listen to that one more time. There's something I'm not understanding about him making a circle.
As she wanted to show me how her study was progressing. I then headed over to the biochemistry lab, and on the way I saw Isadora. We waved at each other. I went over to her and spoke to her for at least 5 minutes about the ship. I then popped into the biochemical lab for a bit to see if Reese was there, but he wasn't.
I get it. Okay. So what he's saying is he went into Dome D and he saw Isadora, who lives in Dome D. And then he went to the biochemical lab, still in Dome D. And then he went back to A. Looking for Reese. Okay, let's check that out with his schedule. Dome A, 1854, in the cantina with everyone else. Then he heads over to F, to the infirmary. Okay, that checks out. Then he goes to Dome D, And he says he saw Isadora and spent some time with her. Then he went to the biochem lab. Then he left and went to A, looking for Reese. Doesn't find him. Does he say he goes home after that?
If Reese was there, but again, no sign, so I decided that I'd just speak to him in the morning and headed back to Dome C to go to sleep.
Yes, okay. So then he goes to Dome C where he lives. All right, well, that is consistent. And it sounds like that Isadora is the important person for us to talk to because she's going to be able to tell us if he was in Dome D mostly talking to her. I mean, if this is true, if he entered Dome D talking to Isadora and then walked next door to the biochem lab, then obviously he wasn't dragging in a body. Jonathan says, I don't think he has the 5 minutes he's claimed to talk to Isadora. Well, let's see. He leaves F. He gets to D, talks to her for 5 minutes, and then goes to the biochem lab. Well, I agree with you. He doesn't really have time, unless he saw her on the way without actually walking in. But how could he talk to her outside it, right? So I think you're right. I think we've caught him clearly. But on the other hand, let's think about it. I mean, these are just people speaking loosely, 5 minutes. Maybe he just means, he thinks it's 5 minutes, but it's just rough. Maybe it was just 2 or 3 minutes. If he's just looking for someone, it only takes him, 30 seconds to peek in. He's not there and he leaves. Let's talk to Isadora. Let's see what she says. Okay, Isadora. Here we go. I want this one, Isadora.
Before dinner, I'd been working at the oxygen generator and I'd left my tools there. So after dinner, I went to collect them and headed over to the launch pad to carry out the daily inspection of the exterior of the rocket ship, just looking for any visible signs of damage or degradation. On my way from Dome C to the landing pad, I passed Rolando and waved to him. He waved back. Once I'd carried out the inspection, I headed to my room to fill in the inspection log, and then I went over to Dome A to relax. I chatted to Nora for a while, and then suddenly we all received a call to our radios over the emergency channel to tell us about Samuel.
Well, that's very clear, isn't it? She didn't have any conversation with Rolando. She just waves to him. All right, let's list their statement and see if it's consistent again. Let's not get trapped into just blaming Rolando.
Before dinner, I'd been working at the oxygen generator and I'd left my tools there. So after dinner, I went to collect them and headed over to the launch pad to carry out the daily inspection of the exterior of the I'd left my tools there. So after dinner, I went to collect.
All right.
Before dinner, I'd been working at the oxygen generator and I'd left my tools there. So after dinner, I went to collect.
Okay, so she's in A with everyone else for dinner. Then she goes to get her tools at the oxygen place, which should be in Dome C if she's not lying. There's the oxygen in Dome C. Okay, totally consistent. All right. And then what does she do?
Them and headed over to the launch pad to carry out the daily inspection of the.
Then she goes to the launch pad, which is where? See the launch pad. I guess that's not going to be protected, so we don't have her
The
there.
exterior of the rocket ship, just looking for any visible signs of damage or degradation. On my way from Dome C to the landing pad, I passed Rolando and waved to him. He waved back. Once I'd carried out the inspection, I headed to my room to fill in the inspection log. And then I
Okay, now hold on a second. Okay, Isadora lives in D. So what she's claiming is that somewhere between C and D, she's on her way to the launch pad, right? That's what we're understanding here. She's leaving the oxygen center, headed to the launch pad, and she's waving at him, which has to be somewhere in here, right? Or between 1920 and 1932, is that
then I
right?
went over to Dome A to relax. I chatted to
Yeah. So she's exiting C, which is the oxygen place. She's heading to the launch pad. So somewhere between 1920, she waves at our guy, gets to the launch pad, and then she eventually heads home at 12:32. So she sees our guy somewhere between 1920 and 1932, Rolando, which is, I guess, somewhere before he gets to Dome D. Or maybe she sees him leaving Dome D. Let me do this. I have a good idea. Let's see if we can bring up that map. Where are screenshots? They're not going to be, are they going to be in images? Perfect. Okay. So then we're going to go like this. Wait, has it loaded it in? Yes. No. Yes, it has. Okay, fine. So it would be really nice if we could crop out the stuff, but I'm not good enough at that. Okay, so we could, if we wanted to draw on this now, can we? If I rotate it, it's not going to be there till I go back to the gallery, load something else, then go back to the gallery, load this. Okay. Oh, that's not right. All right, how about that? Okay. So we could draw on this. Okay, she's having dinner. Maybe it is actually better for me to do it this way. Sorry. We're learning how to do this as we go. Okay, so let me pull it back up. Okay. All right, so what? Why won't it let me? I see. I really love to crop that. Okay.
Before dinner,
Let's
I'd been
listen to
working
her.
at the oxygen generator and I'd left my tools there. So after dinner, I went to collect them and headed over to the launch pad to carry out the daily inspection of the exterior of the rocket ship, just looking for any visible signs of damage or degradation. On my way from Dome C to the landing pad, I passed Rolando and waved to him. He waved back. Once I'd carried out the inspection, I headed to my room to fill in the inspection log, and then I went over to Dome A to relax. I chatted to Nora for a while, and then suddenly we all received a call to our radios over the emergency channel to tell us about Samuel.
Okay, so on her way from Dome C to the landing pad, she passes him by, and then after she's done with the landing pad, she goes to D, which is where she lives. So sometime, but probably on the earlier side of 1920, she sees Rolando, right? Because it's after she finishes working there that she heads home. So she leaves C, she's heading this way. She leaves C, she's heading this way, and she passes Rolando heading this way, closer to the 1920 time. So but he doesn't get into D. Okay, that makes sense. Because he's not heading to D here at 1919. He's headed to kill our guy before he brings him into D. So yeah, our guy Rolando is walking this way and is going to end up killing him and then coming back to D. So she probably sees him headed off to kill him this way. All right, who shall we listen to next? I guess we'll do them in order. Let's listen to Fatima.
I had my food and then quickly headed over to the infirmary to finish up what I'd been working on. Rolando came with me to see how I was getting on, and we discussed it for a bit. I was just about to submit a study I'd been doing into how long-term living on the moon affects the immune system. I can actually go into a bit more detail about the study if you like.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Fatima. Anything else?
Well, according to the logs, I submitted that report at 1922, 8 minutes early. The second I'd submitted it, I went and stared out of the window to think about how no one ever wants to talk to me about my study. I looked out for a few minutes and watched Isadora checking over the rocket on her own on the landing pad. Are you sure you don't want to hear about my study?
Okay. So Rolando goes with her, which we see. We see him coming. We see her joining her into F at 1911. And then she confirms that Isadora isn't lying, that Isadora was spending her time at the launch pad. Okay, so Fatima is totally consistent with all that. How about Courtney? It feels like we already know our suspect, but I guess we're going to listen to all this anyway. Here's Courtney.
Everyone ate together as normal, and to be honest, it was a very standard meal. A mixture between the rations we get delivered from Earth and what we've managed to grow in the hydroponics. I went to the storeroom shortly afterwards to grab a few more rations ahead of breakfast, and while I was in there, I noticed...
Hold on. She starts there, then she goes to the storeroom, which is in E. Okay, fine.
Coral walking past the window. I brought the rations back to the kitchen and began cleaning down all the surfaces and utensils. I'd just finished doing that and was heading into the common room when I heard the news about Sam. I still can't believe it.
Okay, that's completely fine. Okay, now we're going to look at Arlo Daniels.
During dinner, Sam mentioned he thought he'd seen some cracking around the superstructure of Dome D as he was checking some wiring earlier, so I headed straight over there once I'd finished. I inspected the area on the inside of the dome he mentioned, but found nothing. Maybe he just missaw something. Once I'd inspected it, I headed back to Dome A. I passed Sam on my way and indicated everything was fine. He was heading towards Dome C. Once I was inside, I made my way to the common room, where I jumped on the treadmill Shu had just vacated. I was still on the treadmill when the news broke.
Okay, so we got a couple of interesting things there, though. Sam has spotted some cracking cracking in D, right? Yes. So Sam reports cracking in D. Remember, Sam is our victim. So he tells Arlo, who goes and checks it out. Doesn't see anything. But while he's on his way there, he sees our victim heading to C, which is where the dust is, where we think he probably was killed. We think he was probably killed here. So Arlo is our witness that Sam is headed this way. But he didn't see any of the cracking?
Expected it, I headed back to Dome A. I passed Sam on the inside of the around the superstructure of Dome D, as he was checking some wiring earlier, so I headed straight over there once I'd finished. I inspected the area on the inside of the dome he mentioned, but found nothing. Maybe he just missaw something.
Okay.
Once I'd inspected it, I headed back to Dome A. I passed Sam on my way and indicated everything was fine. He was heading towards Dome C. Once I was inside, I made my way to the common room, where I jumped on the treadmill Shu had just vacated. I was still on the treadmill when the news broke.
So Arlo sees Sam between 1917 and 1920. 1920, headed to C. So our victim is seen going from A to C at a very, sorry, it's got to be this way, at a very tight time window between 1917 and 1920. And he would have come in through here. 1917 to 1920. Which is, in fact, when our chief suspect is out and about, headed to D. So that gives him his window. All right, who haven't we heard from yet? We heard from Coral, right? Did we hear from Coral?
We had another pretty average meal
No.
with pretty average conversation. As soon as I felt it was okay to leave, I headed back to my room. I went the...
So Coral goes to D, where her room is. Okay.
long way round, looping around Dome E, to get there, because Sam was leaving at the same time, and I didn't want to have to walk with him and make small talk. Then as I was entering Dome D, I heard someone leaving the biochemical lab. But again, I really didn't feel like talking, so I hid behind a plant pot until they'd gone, then continued to my room. After that, I stayed in my room for a while, but I was feeling a bit restless, so I headed back to Dome A to pot a few new seedlings.
So Coral takes the long way from A to D. She enters at 1921, where she hides, and she hears someone.
We had
Listen to
another
that
pretty
again.
average meal, with pretty average conversation. As soon as I felt it was okay to leave, I headed back to my room. I went the long way round, looping around Dome E, to get there, because Sam was leaving at the same time, and I didn't want to have to walk with him and make small talk. Then as I was entering Dome D, I heard someone leaving the biochemical lab. But again, I really didn't feel like talking, so I hid behind a plant pot until they'd gone.
So 1921, Coral hears someone leaving biochem, right? She says as she's entering, she hears someone leaving. So who is leaving biochem that she's hearing at 1921? It's not our chief suspect, Rolando. It's Reese. Reese is heard exiting D at 11:21. He's the one who finds the body eventually. Let's hear what Reese has to say. He's the one who finds the body. Track him on this.
Once we were done eating, I went back to the biochemical lab because I was sure that I'd left some equipment on. But when I got there, everything was off, so I put my suit back on and went over to my room to go to bed because I was so tired. As I was leaving Dome D, I saw someone hiding behind a plant pot. I think it was Coral. I didn't think much of it. She's quite a recluse, avoids talking to people quite regularly. She didn't seem to have anything with her. Once I got back to my room, I realized there was one bit of equipment that I hadn't checked in the lab, so I headed back over there and... well, you know the rest. Poor Sam. Please catch whoever or whatever did that to him.
Okay, Reese says he comes in to D, he's checking it, and then he leaves. That's consistent. He's only there for 3 minutes. Coral spots him leaving. He spots Coral. So completely consistent. He gets back to his room, realizes he forgot to check something in D, and heads back over to D. Totally consistent. Consistent and very little time to kill anyone, right? Because he's left A and arrived at D 2 minutes later. 3 minutes later, he's gone. So he couldn't have killed anyone. All right. Who's next for us? We listened to Isadora. We listened to Samuel. Did we listen to Samuel? Oh, Samuel's our dead guy. Nora, we didn't hear her story.
I didn't exit the canteen for the entire time period you're talking about.
Oh, she was there.
So I won't be much help, I'm afraid. I'm a very slow eater. Most people left the dome while I was still eating. They're all used to me, so they don't wait around for me to finish. Arlo came back shortly after he'd left and jumped onto the treadmill. I think Courtney was buzzing around as usual prepping stuff. Rolando popped in and said hi and then left again. And Isadora came in as well and sat with me just as I was finishing my meal. I think she said she'd been checking the rocket.
Totally all consistent. David Knight next. Okay, David Knight. What do we think about him? He spends the entire time in A, and then he goes home into E, it looks like, where he has his room.
I didn't really talk to anyone at dinner because I was a bit distracted. I'd seen something just before dinner. I'm not really sure what, but it was in the Ukwea craterlet. And I honestly don't think it was human, so yeah, I was a bit obsessed about that. After dinner, I headed back to Ukwea, but I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. So I collected some rock samples and took them back to the geological laboratory to analyze them and see if they held any secrets. They didn't.
Okay, so David believes that there's a moon creature, but his behavior is completely consistent with just spending his time alone. And lastly, we have Zhu Tang.
After we'd eaten, I went into the common room and spent some time on the treadmill to keep myself fit. Arlo asked if he could use it after me, so I finished up and then took a leisurely walk over to my bedroom. Nothing seemed weird as I was going over there, but I wasn't concentrating, to be honest. I was mainly just staring at the stars.
All right, so everyone is completely consistent except for Rolando, who lies about talking to Coral, we're going to listen to Rolando's statement once more because we're so convinced he's our guy. We knew right away he was going to be our guy, but let's listen to him lie.
After dinner, I went with Fatima to the infirmary as she wanted to show me how her study was progressing. I then headed over to the biochemistry lab, and on the way I saw Isadora. We waved at each other. I went over to her and spoke to her for at least 5 minutes about the ship.
Total lie.
I then popped into the biochemical lab for a bit to see if Reese was there, but he wasn't, so I headed back to Dome A to see if Reese was there. But again, no sign, so I decided that I'd just speak to him in the morning and headed back to Dome C to go to sleep.
Right, so he's lying about talking to Isadora. Now, I suppose before we fully accuse him, we've got a clear contradiction, right? Isadora says they didn't talk. He says they did talk. So before we accuse Rolando, how are we sure that it's him that's lying? Okay, it's because Jonathan pointed out that on his way from A to D, let's see, he went to A, then he went to the infirmary, then he went from the infirmary to D, that he doesn't have time to be talking to Isadora, to Isadora. He doesn't have time to be talking to Isadora. He's only in D for 4 minutes, but 1 minute, that's not such a big deal difference. But Isadora doesn't get into D until he's gone. Enters D at 12:27. He leaves at 12:31. She doesn't get into D till 12:32. So they couldn't have had a conversation. It's not even a matter of time. It's that they weren't in D at the same time. Isadora's statement is completely consistent. She sees him as she's leaving D. No, she sees him as she's approaching D. And he's leaving. But they're never in D at the same time, right? He's in there from 12:27 to 12:31. She's in there from 12:32 to 12:38. So 100% he's lying. Rolando wanted to hear about her study. Did he really say that and I missed that? That's pretty hilarious if that's true. Rolando wanted to hear about Fatima's study, but nobody wants to hear about it. Did he? I want to hear that one
After
more
dinner,
time.
I went with Fatima to the infirmary as she wanted to show me how her study was progressing. I then headed over to the biochemistry lab, and on the way I saw Isadora. We waved at each other. I went over to her and spoke to her for at least 5 minutes about the ship. I then popped into the biochemical lab for a bit to see if Reese was there, but he wasn't, so I headed back to Dome A to see if Reese was there. But again, no sign, so I decided that I'd just speak to him in the morning and headed back to Dome C to go to sleep.
Okay, so he didn't really want to hear it. But Jonathan says, it's a little unclear to me now if they can talk over their comms. But Isadora still doesn't mention them talking. Well, it's fun to dwell on this because otherwise it's just too easy. But okay, let's say they can talk on their comms. Yeah, it is a little unclear. But then when would they have talked? When would they have talked? Isadora goes from C to D. Takes her 12 minutes. Rwando is leaving D. He's leaving D having dropped the body off, is our theory. And then he waves to Isadora. He says, I talked to her 5. Let me listen to Isadora again. We should at least entertain the possibility that Isadora could be the one who's lying.
Before dinner, I'd been working at the oxygen generator and I'd left my tools there. So after dinner, I went to collect them and headed over to the launch pad to carry out the daily inspection of the exterior of the rocket ship, just looking for any visible signs of damage or degradation. On my way from Dome C to the landing pad, I passed Rolando and waved to him. He waved back. Once I'd carried out the inspection, I headed to my room to fill in the inspection log, and then I went over to Dome A to relax. I chatted to Nora for a while, and then suddenly we all received a call to our radios over the emergency channel to
Okay, and she is spotted by the launch pad. So she says she goes from A to the oxygen to get her stuff. You can see it's a 3-minute trip to C. And then she's there for 6 minutes to check for her stuff. Then she's leaving. And the reason there's a 12-minute gap is because that 12 minutes is when she's working on the launch pad. When she finishes on the launch pad, then she goes to D.
to tell us about Samuel.
Again.
Before dinner, I'd been working at the oxygen generator and I'd left my tools there. So after dinner, I went to collect them and headed over to the launch pad to carry out the daily inspection of the exterior of the rocket ship, just looking for any visible signs of damage or degradation. On my way from Dome C to the landing pad.
Okay, so this is important. On her way from C to the landing pad, which has to be around 1920. So she claims that she spotted him. Isadora crosses Rwando near 1921. Let's make sure that that's consistent. So it is consistent because he's, well, is it? Yes, it is. So somewhere around 1921, she's walking this way and she sees Rolando, 1921. He's headed from F to kill our guy. That's why it's taking him 8 minutes. But what if he's right? What if he passes her and talks to her for 5 minutes? If he does talk to her for 5 minutes, then that explains why he doesn't get into D until 1927. And then she doesn't get to the launch pad till 1926. Then he goes in, then he exits. And she goes home. So maybe the timeline isn't so clear either, right? If they're both in agreement that they meet up at around 1921, that's consistent with both of them, isn't it? let's say they're talking through their comms outside. Isn't that consistent with both of their timelines? That would put her talking to him from 1921 to 1926, and then she makes it to the launch pad and then comes home. And he would say, yeah, I talked to her for 5 minutes between 1919 and then I went into D. So she would say, no, I didn't spend 5 minutes. I was all at the launch pad for that time, but none of their timelines rule it out. Now, one of the people witnessed, Fatima witnessed Isadora working at the launch pad, but did she say when?
I had my food and then quickly headed over to the infirmary to finish up what I'd been working on. Rolando came with me to see how I was getting on, and we discussed it for a bit. I was just about to submit a study I'd been doing into how long-term living on the moon affects the immune system. I can actually go into a bit more detail about the study if you like.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Fatima. Anything else?
Well, according to the logs, I submitted that report at 1922, 8 minutes early. The second I'd submitted it, I went and stared out of the window to think about how no one ever wants to talk to me about my study. I looked out for a few minutes and watched Isadora checking over the rocket on her own on the landing pad.
Okay, so 1921, 1922, she does see Isadora, who's already made it to the launch pad. So that timeline does invalidate Rolando claiming that they were talking for 5 minutes, even if they could talk outside. So that also confirms Isadora's and goes against Rolando. That's another reason to disprove him. I think you also might be able to say that if Rolando's telling the truth and Isadora was the killer who's lying about the 5-minute talk with Rolando, that would be a problem because she'd somehow have to finish that talk, be seen at the launch pad, go kill him, and then come back and drop his body off at 12:32, which she doesn't have time. All right, so we've proven in a bunch of ways that Rolando is our guy. We could have answered that right up front, but we wanted to take our time and have fun. So maybe not everyone will have found that fun, but that's all right. So we know the person who did it. It's Rolando Kolarek. I couldn't be any more sure. Sure we all agree. Rolando, I can't believe it. I would never have said it was him. He's such a kind, gentle soul. I just can't understand what happened. I'm going to go and confront and then apprehend him. Here's a link so you can watch. Okay. All right, let's watch this together.
I just can't believe Rolando murdered Samuel. It just doesn't make any sense. Oh. Hi, Detective. Yes, it's me, Rosalie. Again. Sorry. It's just such a shock. Well, thank you for all your hard work. But do you know what? I think there's got to be more to this. Rolando is not a murderer. I'm going to do a bit more digging and see what I can find. There's definitely some more work for you to do, Detective. We're not at the bottom of this case yet. When you're ready to begin, open up the next package and get cracking. I'll speak to you then.
Okay. Congratulations. You worked out. Samuel Douglas was killed by his colleague and friend Rolando Kowarek. Rosalie is incredibly confused by this series of events and wishes us to investigate further. When you're ready, proceed to the second part. Well, we drew this out as much as we possibly could to suck all of the enjoyment we could out of it, and it still only went on for 2 hours. What do you want to do now? Shall we play part 2 right now? We could, if part 2 takes us 2 hours, we could finish all 3 parts tonight. What do you think? Let me bring up the chat. So here are our options. We could stop right here and have 3 short 2.5 hour sessions. That's completely reasonable. Maybe that's the smart thing to do. Or we could continue playing tonight. So I think you could make the case for either way. 3 short sessions. I mean, no matter what, I have to end the session now because it'll be better if there's different videos. But I could end this session now and then we could jump back on at 1 a.m. in half an hour and play the next part. Or should we stop here and continue tomorrow? DJ Moneycut says, quit while we're ahead. Maybe that is wise. I'm leaning towards 3 short sessions as well. Done. Okay, done and done. We're going to stop here then. Do we need to talk about it? It was short. We were promised that the prologue was like an hour. And this was 3 to 5 hours total. It didn't say how much time was going to be spent in each session. So maybe this is one particularly short session. Any quick thoughts, though, on this part? I mean, it's odd because this feels like sort of a short prologue versus the prologue felt much more involved with all the websites and the multiple puzzles. Here we just got this quick one little puzzle of assembling this, and then the timelines and the 12 interviews. The production quality is still through the roof here. Those are very good recordings, very good acting. Just a bit on the simple side and short side, even though we spent as much time as we possibly could. It is fun to retrace their steps, though. Ben Daresall says no motive. Yeah, but that's because we haven't gotten to that yet. We're going to get that surely in the next couple sessions. As our Rosalie says, it doesn't make any sense right now. All right, well, we're going to stop here, and we'll meet again tomorrow evening at 10 p.m. and we'll play episode 2. Anything else anyone wants to talk about before we go? Little less humor in this episode as well compared to the prologue, although it was fun how Fatima had her report she wanted to talk about. Ben says, I'm still not clear on how he got his moon dust in his lung. I think the way he did is that someone killed him by taking off his helmet or smashing his helmet or something. That's how he was killed. That's my guess. Jonathan Warner says, so far no sign of the moon cult. Well, it could be that our killer, Rolando, belongs to the moon cult. You can see a couple murders will ruin this whole project. All right. Well, I guess I'll let all of you get back to... I spoke too soon. Any theories about the damage Sam saw? Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a classical trope, right? What's the the damage that someone's what's the movie? Oh, maybe I shouldn't say it because it'll spoil it. There's a movie where they're examining. Oh yeah, I know what it is. I've recommended it several times on this channel. All right, I can't talk about it because it'll. It's not. Is it a spoiler? It's not really a spoiler, but I won't say what movie it is. But the classical story of someone covering up shoddy manufacturing and getting killed because they're about to reveal it is an age-old motive, but it doesn't sound like. Well, we know that the victim was an electrical engineer. Now, what is Rolando? If Rolando is the killer, what's his job? Let's take a look and remind ourselves. He's a pilot and a geologist. He also likes rocks. Well, I can't think of why the pilot would want to be killing people unless he's part of the cult. He does like rocks. Or maybe there's a space creature and Rolando is working with him. All right, for real now, I'm going to sign off, but I'll see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. See you then.